I think we are in a time where most of the recent big AAA titles are coming as a disappointment, and the insane amount of money spent on them doesn't always mean it's going to be a great experience. Though sometimes a smaller budget can also mean more creative freedom. The more expensive a game is, the more involved the business side is in its creation, in order to protect the investment. This is why AAA games have microtransactions jammed in there these days, even when it's not a good design fit. So in this video, I am gonna talk about 10 best AA games that can easily compete with the major AAA titles these days, or at least offer a lot more enjoyable experience despite their low budget.
Cool.
A Plague Tale. Now I had to put a Plague Tale games on this list. Both of the games were developed by Asobo Studios, and obviously Asobo Studio isn't a large corporation like Rockstar Games or Ubisoft. So if you're curious to know the budget of A Plague Tale Innocence and Requiem, especially as they were such great games, only $10 million for Innocence and $25 for A Plague Tale Requiem. I am very surprised because Requiem looks like a very expensive game to make, and if they managed to make it for $25 million, then that's a great achievement for the studio. Now let's talk about the game. Visually, it's stunning, starting from vast landscapes to festive markets to the open sea. The architecture of the middle-aged buildings are detailed and gorgeous. The level designs were exceptional. The soundtrack is sometimes haunting, other times emotional or festive, and at all times fitting for the atmosphere. The gameplay is excellent in my opinion and very unique and different from other games. It's still a stealth game at its heart given the relatively fragile nature of the protagonist, but this time you have more options in your arsenal to fight back. Also, the story is the strongest point of this game. In my opinion, the story comes closest to The Last of Us Part 1.
Yes.
All right, we'll do that later. Mother, where's Hugo's room? He's exhausted.
Upstairs. The bed is ready.
Thanks. Come on, you sleepy beast.
A Way Out is a 2018 action-adventure game developed by Hazelight Studios. A Way Out is a cooperative two-player adventure that has you working together as partners. You start the story as two people in jail who become friends and who concoct an escape plan. The plan is to escape and to find and kill the mutual enemy that you both have. This game offers an absolutely amazing gaming experience. The gameplay itself is not phenomenal, but the interactions between the characters, the character development, and the overall storyline are what truly makes this game shine. During the entire game, you will find random things you can do with two players like play darts, baseball, basketball, Connect 4, and more. It provides respite from the storyline itself and gives you a bigger meaning for being two players in the same game. I also feel it's a sneaky way to show a relationship is being built between the characters. They start to care for each other. I can't speak highly enough about the story and the dialogue written for the characters. It makes it very believable and authentic rather than just words on paper. The game is an absolute must-play if you haven't experienced this game already.
Here you go. Come on, I don't got all day.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Next.
Life is Strange. I love this game. It's a very different, story-rich, and will make even the coldest of hearts feel emotional. Dontnod did an amazing job and has proven that their small team can make an amazing, beautiful, heartfelt game. A big cut in the budget, but the team still managed to offer a lot better experience than Remember Me in my opinion. Life is Strange is slightly similar to games of the Telltale series. Your choices affect the outcome of the game and make subtle or huge changes throughout. You feel empathy for the characters in the world, and whilst handling mature themes such as depression, the game grips you to your seat. It is amazing, a masterpiece. The music and art design are unique and aesthetically pleasing, which is a nice change from the usual games we play. I totally recommend this game.
But then, so am I.
You okay?
It's been one strange fucking day.
Man, I saw that Victoria didn't take down that pic of you on Facebook. Major bitch move.
No worries, Warren. I took a sweet shot of Victoria I can't wait to share.
Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is a difficult game for me to rate. Nearly every aspect of this game is done exceptionally well, and the developers have achieved what they intended to, but unfortunately this game was just not a fun time for me. Due to the subject matter of mental illness and psychosis, it's actually not intended to be a fun game, but rather a traumatic experience. The gameplay is simple. It mostly consists of walking around and solving puzzles. Most puzzles usually require you to find symbols within the environment by standing in the right spot and looking at things from a proper angle. There is some Dark Souls-esque combat from time to time in which you have quick attacks, strong attacks, dodges, and parries. Graphically, this game is stunning, even after all these years. The environments are as graphically gorgeous as they are aesthetically hideous. The sound design in this game is also incredible, and I would highly recommend to play with headphones only. Throughout the entire game you hear different voices, and they come from all around you. This is part of the game design and its attempt to simulate a state of psychosis or maybe even schizophrenia, but it eventually became overwhelming. Hellblade is an experience that not everyone will enjoy, but I would still recommend to give it a try. Also, the game's budget was under $10 million. And with a very small team of only 20 people worked on making this game. It's really awesome how even very small team of devs can still manage to deliver an experience close to many AAA titles. What Remains of Edith Finch? What Remains of Edith Finch is basically a walking simulator. Too bad that many people haven't experienced this masterpiece. In addition to an extremely sad story, the creators gave us an original and highly interactive game full of small details. Personally, I think the storytelling is an absolute masterclass. The only downside of the game would be its short length. I recommend taking your time to look at photos, paintings, clippings, and so on. You really owe it to yourself to play this once. It will only take about 2 to 3 hours of your time and is completely worth it. It is probably one of the best indie games out there.
I wasn't too surprised when the key didn't fit. Great-Grandpa Sven built a music box for Barbara, along with the rest of the house.
Atomic Hearts. Atomic Hearts is one of the closest to the big-budget AAA games. I don't know the budget of it, but I personally would say that it's a AA game. A game that is still indie, but is pretty close to AAA. But if we talk about the game, it was definitely not what I expected. I thought this was gonna be some serious sci-fi hardcore survivor game based around a story, but instead got a sci-fi fever dream. Atomic Heart seems to take inspiration from a lot of familiar titles like Fallout for its world design, a mix of BioShock and Dead Island for its gameplay, and freaking Looney Tunes for its story. This game's story is probably the most psychotic thing I've had to experience in the past 10 years. The gameplay is a tier above basic FPS, allowing you to use as many weapons as you can carry with 3 alternate special powers that try to work in tandem with one another. The game's default difficulty could be hard enough to justify all that. I typically just used my best one, and had so much ammo for every gun I settled for just blasting. Overall, I think it's a good game and you should give it a try. It Takes Two. This game is absolutely sublime, and one of the most unique games I've played. It must be played with 2 players just like A Way Out. By the way, both of these games are by the same studio, Hazelight. Each level is a unique world, with unique tools, weapons, skills that needed to be used to progress. This kept the game feeling fresh and exciting, while still having many common threads throughout the entire story. The game is part puzzle, part skill and timing, part action, and all fun. Puzzles were just hard enough to where I only had to YouTube 1 or 2 of them. Overall execution of the game was nearly flawless, and would love to play more like this. I think more developers should create such couch co-op adventure games. It Takes Two also has a rating of overwhelmingly positive, so a job well done again by the studio.
Why do you always blame me, huh? Yes. Why do you always blame him? Thank you. Oh!
What is that?
Kingdom Come Deliverance. I first played this game in 2020, around 3 years ago, and honestly this game requires a lot of patience. It's a game set in realism. Things that would take a few seconds in another RPG take much more time. And I mean time in real life. This is definitely one of the most believable game worlds you can play in. But before the game requires a huge amount of patience from the player to learn the world and to properly interact with its systems. Also, one thing I would like to talk about is the sound design. It's freaking great. Moving on different terrain is very noticeable to the point where you can almost center your horse on roads based on the sounds the hooves make. At the end of the day, I liked this game and would definitely recommend. Firewatch. Although this is one of those games where you just play through it all, and then not really replaying it ever again. But the story keeps you hooked. Lovable characters, cool art style, and just a nice game to sit down and play and just immerse yourself in. Firewatch is a walking sim that has aged like fine wine. Firewatch never feels like an empty exploration game because Campo Santo's narrative commands your attention from the beginning and keeps you guessing until the mystery unravels, while occasionally disorienting. Navigating the Wyoming forests and underground caves as a ranger alone with no other person in sight turns solitude and fear into tangible entities and will make you sorely appreciate the sound of another voice even if it's somebody you've never met.